Welcome to Terra Nova. We are a media network weaving together a vibrant community of leaders devoted to co-creating regenerative futures. Within Terra Nova, you'll find a diverse range of shows hosted by passionate community members, each bringing their unique perspectives and embodied wisdom to the collective. In this space, we drop into heart-centered conversations with leaders and visionaries weaving together art, entrepreneurship, science, and spirituality. We invite you to drop into your body, open your mind, tune into your senses, and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, Terra Nova podcast. Here we are.
Terra Nova Media Network. Here we are.
We decided yesterday, and it is so. That's it. I think we've both been on long journeys with our own work, our own bodies of work, and have had to go through our own very personal embodiment process. One of our friends, Daje, story work doula, she calls this channeling your medicine. And that is something I'm really connected to right now. And I feel like we are inside of the Terra Nova podcast network. We're still messing with all of the words there, media network, whatever it's going to be. But it's time and we're ready. We're channeling our medicine. And so here we are. What do you have to say about Terra Nova Network, media productions? This beautiful thing, whatever this thing is turning into.
So the reason I'm so excited about this, not just being one show, but being this network of shows, is that that's really what Terra Nova is about, right? So Terra Nova is not about any individual leader. It's about gathering together this global community of leaders who are devoted to cultivating life on Earth, whose work is regenerating life on Earth, whose work is breathing more beauty into this world. And so the way that I see Terra Nova is that it is this collective frequency. It's greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
And so I see the Terra Nova podcast, the media network that grows in this space, as a space for us to really broadcast that collective frequency of voices out into the world.
Yeah. In their own frequency, in their own differentiated ways. So we're here to amplify that and connect via this new kind of wave of community we're all experiencing. We all know it. We all feel it. We want to be inside of it. But what does it really mean to embody it? And especially when a lot of us are finding each other online in digital spaces. So how do we begin to embody community inside of the digital spaces that hopefully kind of tills the earthy ground of that inside of our lives, inside of our very real, profane, mundane lives. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I kind of want to talk a little bit about our processes with this, because I feel like it's important to the story. Not that we have to go into the big long story, because right, what do we start at birth? But
One
day.
Conversation for another day.
I feel like there's something very subtle happening at an energetic level within the collective right now, which is calling us into community. And we've felt it for a while. And it took us until 2 days ago to be oh yeah, let's consolidate this synthesis that we've been feeling into that. So I don't know if you want to kind of illuminate, share some details of your own personal process that brought us here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the magic and the challenge of Terra Nova is that we're being asked to come into community in a way that we really don't see anybody modeling out in the world.
Mm.
And so this way of coming in community is we're asking and attracting, magnetizing leaders who are so grounded in their own sovereignty and their own medicine and their own purpose and their own frequency, and then
Mhm.
asking them to contribute that medicine to the whole without asking them to contort and dilute and change who they are to be accepted by the community, right? Because historically, we have had to change ourselves. We've had to mask in order to be accepted by the tribe, in order to be accepted by the community. And so from the beginning, it's really important. It's been really important to us to emphasize that message that we want all of you. We want the truth of who you are here. And so we had to go through that process ourselves
Yeah.
in order
Yeah.
to role model that, in order to create a foundation of integrity
Mhm.
so that then the other leaders who are a part of Terra Nova, who are beginning to come into the network now, um, can tune into that shift in the way that we're relating to one another.
I
And
wanna
so
I wanna make a quick note about
yeah.
integrity 'cause I feel like that's something that's important. Integrity being, in my own words, uh, this, like, attunement that we've been talking about. Like, integrity is not this set value system outside of us, but it's actually, like, being integrous within our own internal value system. And so
Yes.
integrity becomes this thing that is about attuning to our own frequency and finding that integrity from within. And so, anyway, back to what you were saying, but I wanted to I think that's like a word that I've heard out there that I've connected with in a very like specific way. Like I've thought, "Oh, in order to be integrous, it looks like this." And I've looked at like a blueprint from outside of me, but
Mhm.
actually coming into in integrity with our inner fullest authority is finding that from within, using the templates outside of us and then finding it
Mhm.
within. Okay, sorry, I
Thank
digress, but I wanted to
No,
make that
thank
note
you for
there.
making that distinction. My definition of integrity is coming into wholeness, right?
Mm.
Bringing
Mhm.
all of the pieces of us, like all of it is welcome here, right? The shadow pieces, all of the pieces that we've left behind on our journey. To
Yeah.
me, being a being of integrity is somebody who is on the journey of bringing all parts of us home.
Mhm.
That's the work of retrieving our soul and remembering. This is something I keep coming back to lately. We keep, remembrance is such a core foundational guiding light of Terra Nova.
Absolutely.
Remember to
Yeah.
literally put ourselves back together.
Yep.
To me, that's what integrity is, and living in alignment with our truth and our values.
And the messier parts. Like integrity is not like this whole process that we're talking about, not just exclusive of the word integrity, but this whole process that we're talking about is the courage and willingness to look fear and the messier parts, the shadow work, all of that straight in the eye.
Mhm,
Accept it, hold it, unshame it. I love that term from Britton LaRue's work, but um yeah, it's not about getting it perfect. It's role modelship is not about perfection, like, at all. It is there is that third line quality, that oppositional quality between the 3 and the 6 that is, like, there is perfection in the process. And so the integrity is staying true to whatever process is unfolding, regardless of our own minds kind of, like, visions of what that would look like. Okay, well, what's showing up in my life? How can I be present to this right now? learn from this situation, circumstance, relationship, whatever, is being present in the moment. So
something that I love to remind people of, or at least like share this piece of information around the third line process. I don't remember where I read it, but the third line is the only line of the 6 lines that reaches perfection.
Yeah.
And it's through that process of trial and error.
Yeah.
And so I feel like third lines, get this rep for being, whatever, but it's like actually I feel such a devotion with third lines where there's just this like resilience and commitment and devotion to getting up and trying again. And guess what? We're living in such unexpected times where we're going to have to learn how to adapt and evolve to meet each moment as the chaos continues to unfold on this planet, and our ability to pick ourselves back up and try again is literally going to determine whether we survive and thrive on this plane.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I'm speaking for myself as somebody who's struggled with insane levels of perfectionism, which is part of the reason why this podcast still doesn't exist, isn't only existing now, because I've recorded so many freaking times and my inner perfectionist is like, no.
Yeah.
But I, at the same time, this is also so perfectly divinely timed. And I'm really understanding and seeing now why this is the time. Just like a quick bit of context, because you'll probably go onto Spotify and see that there is another Terra Nova podcast by Sarah Belpedio because I can't get it off of the internet. But don't listen to that one. Listen to this one. But yeah, I started recording this podcast 3 years ago. And at that time, I hadn't connected. I was in the thick of my Saturn return. I had no friends. I hadn't connected with soul family, fractal family yet.
Yeah.
But I was just so excited about Terra Nova. And so I was like, all right, we're going to do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I wasn't resourced to really continue it at the time. And so, yeah, I just share that story. Also, like, that's part of this process, right? It's taken us 3 years to get to this moment where now it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for us to come together and co-create this space. I wanted to go back to the question you shared a little bit earlier around kind of both of us moving through our own individual process of tuning into our own medicine, channeling our own medicine. Kodie and I don't even know how to begin to describe our relationship. Like, yeah.
Like telepathic. Like
it's
entangled.
It can be confusing
Quantum
sometimes.
entanglement. Yeah.
Quantum entanglement, that's good.
Yeah.
It can be confusing sometimes, where the other begins and ends.
Is this your project or is this mine? Like, what am I? Yeah.
And maybe this would be a good time to inform everybody. I'm a 2/4 splenic projector on the cross of the unexpected. Kodie.
I'm a 6/3 reflector on the cross of Dominion too.
And so the projector reflector dynamics are definitely something that we'll get into in another podcast. The more we've kind of unraveled that, we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But we're so psychically in tune with each other. And so we're like, is that your thing? Is that my thing? Is that our thing?
Yeah. And constantly like blind to ourselves inside of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh wait, I didn't know that's what we were doing. Okay, hi, I've arrived.
Yeah.
So funny.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But so I feel like within the last few months, I mean, you've had your different channels, and I'll just let you speak to that. But for me, at least, Terra Nova was the vision that came to me during my Saturn return. And over the summer was when Kodie came as a co-founder, and then our other friend Luna came in as a co-founder. And we began to really like create the first form of Terra Nova. So the energy of Terra Nova we'd been breathing life into her on the tea table for many years. But this summer was really when we began to like birth her really out into the world. And
Yeah.
so through that process, what I started to notice, I got pulled into a really intense shadow integration process. And I started to see all of the ways that I was becoming a little codependent with Terra Nova.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so I I think, Kodie, you really helped me see that. Like, what I started to notice was just, like, these codependent patterns from, my childhood begin to show up in the way I was relating to Terra Nova and putting pressure on the newborn baby. You were the one that really called attention to that. Like, you don't expect the baby to pay rent on the day it's born.
Yep.
It's a baby.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
continuing back to the baby metaphor is like really helped me release, I think, that pressure that I was feeling and like my mind's own agendas and ideas of like what Terra Nova is, and surrender to the fact Terra Nova is continuing to reveal herself to us every single day. And as she grows and evolves, becomes a toddler and a teenager,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we will begin to see who she is and why she's here.
Yeah.
Um, and so through that kind of shadow integration process, I got pulled into like taking a little bit of a step back from Terra Nova and being like, what is it that I'm bringing to this space?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is my medicine? How can I channel my medicine in this space?
Mhm.
And that the kind of visual that came through for what Terra Nova is Terra Nova is a vessel.
Mhm.
It's a
Yep.
vessel for that holds our creative life force energy, and so, what am I bringing to that vessel?
Yep.
I would love for
'Cause
you to
we
share a little bit about your iterations too on, like, the projects that you've been working on over the last couple of years and how that's brought you to this.
Yeah, I wanted to make one last note on Terra Nova. Like, what we've seen continually is that Terra Nova as a vessel continues to shapeshift as we channel our medicine. And so it is a mirrored reflection of the leadership team so far that is involved with the creation of Terra Nova and this vessel. It has been a reflection of what is carried from within. And so I wanted to make that note there because as it continues shapeshifting, the capacity grows, the depth grows, the multitudes, like, I mean, it's just like the possibilities are kind of I don't yeah, we can't really fully understand it, but we do know that there's a relationship between channeling our own medicine, our voices, our power, our authority via this vessel into the world, and that's the connecting piece. That's what makes Terra Nova what she is. Um,
Really quick, a word that came through when I was asking, Allison when I interviewed her about, Terra Nova, and something that came up for me was this adaptogenic quality.
yeah. Yeah.
It's like she meets us where we're at and, like, provides us what we need in the moment,
Yeah.
and I feel like that just really speaks to that shape-shifting quality that you were just sharing. Anyways.
And lately, it's been a heavy dose of reality. Like, lately, Terra Nova's been like, "Hey, like, I'm not gonna be this thing unless you channel your medicine. Like,
Mhm.
I will not, I cannot, because you are me and I am you, and we are not separate. And so until you become more fully what you are, I cannot." And, like, that's been, like, the profound, beautiful teaching inside of it.
That's why it wasn't time 2 months ago.
Right, right, and we have continued, like, mentally being like, "Oh, this time," and these are great times, right? Like, they they look great. The time is really when we decide, when we step
Yeah.
inside of it, and here we are today. Is it today? Is it tomorrow? Who knows? Like, it's like kind of surrendering to the timing of it as well. But as far as let me see, like what processes are even, I would say that, very similarly to Sarah, I've really been engaged and initiated into these deeper realms of myself through my Saturn return. For me, kind of a difference inside of that was this deep passion to learn more fully who I am because of my earth side children. Like bringing human beings into the world was really like an initiation that happened pre-Saturn return. And then I got a hold of human design and then was kind of like playing with it in this very like superficial surface level way. Um and not really experimenting or using it in a way that helped me see myself. And, I would say about 3, 4 years into my experiment, right around the time that we met, you had recently channeled the vision of Terra Nova. I had recently started sharing my thoughts about HD on Instagram. We connected, and through this process for me, there has been a deep, um, anchoring into my creativity. Like, my creative life force has always been the foundation, and the way that I tie that back to this passion, like, being initiated into motherhood, wanting to know myself deeper so that I could be the mom that I wanted to be, or be the mom that just a lot of this is also just seeing yourself as you are, right? Like, seeing that you're already doing it. So, while there are desires to, unlearn dysfunctional behaviors, patterns, whatever. Um, it's a lot about seeing myself as I am, accepting that, and then that creative life force really came online once I had the girls. And so I've been just third lining since then. Like I've been like, okay, we're gonna podcast, we're gonna do this. I've been really like exploring the not self transference. Um, and about 2 years ago, I started becoming very disillusioned with the way that human design is being taught at like a very foundational level after having taken the foundational courses through IHDS. And that started at the beginning. I saw through it at the beginning. And as kind of a side note here, I do want to say that there's so much great value in the HD system as it stands, in the information that Ra Uruhu and his team, so many other voices, so many other teachers have shared. So if you're hearing this, it's not wrong, but there is something more.
Mhm.
And so I had been third lining all of these creative projects, knowing that I had something deep inside that I wanted to communicate. I didn't know what it was. And I also knew that I didn't want to do it alone. I wasn't going to do it alone. I knew that at a core fundamental level, like the voice and the thing that I had to say and share in a really impactful way was never going to come through by myself. And so that leads us here back to Terra Nova. And I think, um, yeah, us meeting was very kismet. It was very synchronous. And it's just been kind of a constant unfurling and third line, majorly just like a third line Saturn return process for myself.
What I think I realized in this process of separating myself from Terra Nova a little bit and
Mhm.
realigning with my own medicine
Mhm.
was coming deeper into the truth that I'm not here to do anything alone.
Yeah.
I know that my success is interdependent,
Yeah.
not dependent, but
Right.
interdependent on the success of my community and my fractal.
Yeah.
Both of us were born in the quarter of duality, purpose fulfilled through bonding. I'm a Libra rising. I have 4 planets in Scorpio. I'm tribal.
Yeah.
Um, and And so I think like the journey to this moment for me has been unraveling the layer of codependence around that, and that codependence like programming to be able to open up to my role and my purpose, which is to co-create in union with others.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that again is something that Terra Nova is here to role model, this new way of co-creating. Currently, we're in a paradigm that is so individual focused.
Mm-hmm.
And, according to Richard Rudd's prophecy of this coming time, the great change, we're really moving into a time where we're moving away from this hyper focus on the individual and looking
Mm-hmm.
more towards our interdependence and success coming through our relationships with one another. And so by no means have we figured any of this out, but we're committed and devoted to trial and erroring and continuing to try and try again and know that sometimes those old patterns and the ego is going to come through and be like, no, that's fine. And this is, whatever. But to me, this is the gift of this time. What really excites me about this moment that we're moving through, where we are no longer going to be able to depend on the things that we've depended on in the past to take care of us, like these institutions that are all crumbling now. It's going to force us to lean on each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we're leaning on each other, though, we need to be aware of the way that we're relating to one another, right? Like
Yep.
independence and codependence are actually two sides of the same coin, and what we're looking to cultivate is, interdependence with one another,
Yeah.
regenerative, reciprocal relationships with one another. And when we're tuned into that process of reciprocal relating, like to me, that's actually where magic happens.
Yep.
That's when we're operating in that way where everybody who's involved is having their life force regenerated through coming together and sharing. That's how we co-create this, this new earth. And anything is possible, I think, in that space.
Yeah. I think Terra Nova really seeks to question modern day power dynamics. And the thing that I was thinking about as I was listening to you speak is like nothing gets subtractive. Like, like energy doesn't like as an individual, when I become depleted, that energy is not just like gone from the universe. It's been shifted to someone else, to an environment. It's been shifted. My power has been depleted from myself. And so I think like there is an undertone here, and we'll have to explore it more, but there's an undertone in this term that we use, regenerative. Maybe we can elucidate on that a little bit, because I think it's also like a term that I saw out there before I related with that, like before I understood that. I was like, "Oh, those hippies," like which I'm like, I mean, I feel like for me, like I'm quite a hippie, but like there's like kind of this, what's the word I want to say? There's a prejudice perhaps, or like a way that we think about people who are using these terms that's like, "Oh, that's not me." But when you can understand what regenerative practices or use of energy actually implies, you see that it's actually the way of life affirmation. Like
Mhm.
like we shouldn't, right? Like that's quite the word there. But
We can't
every
survive here if we're not regenerating our life force. That's it.
exactly. And so many of us are sick and depleted because our life force is being literally sucked from us and taken. And
Right.
we have the capacity and the choice to be regenerative, to keep it here within our communities, to keep it here within ourselves. And that's going to take a conscious effort to reconstruct what that looks like, to learn those new behaviors, to learn those new patterns and ways of relating to one another. Like, what does it look like to not give your power away to another person or structure outside of you unduly, like without your kind of conscious permission?
I'm really happy that you brought up this point about regeneration, because when the vision for Terra Nova first came through, it was Terra Nova, a regenerative community. And so a lot of times when people think about the word regeneration, the first thing that comes to mind, especially regenerative community, is regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
Something that is involving, regenerating the land and making it, working with it in a way that is yielding food,
Yeah. Like
bringing life.
very in your life, like very 3D Maya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, the way that I've always related, or the way that I have related to this word, is more so through the way that you're speaking, our own, relating to our own energy.
Mhm.
And so from the beginning, when I became introduced to human design, I immediately saw human design as this tool to help us learn how to regenerate our life force energy.
Mm.
And
Yes.
so I'm happy that you brought
Oh,
this up, because a lot of people, I think, like, I use the word regeneration a lot, and people actually don't get, like, it's a very, like, specific, yeah, way that I
yeah.
have related to it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so for me, something that I speak about a lot is, like, the way that this old world crumbles and kind of fades into history in these, power structures that are corrupt and destroying life on earth. The way that those go away is by every single individual divesting their energy and their belief in those systems. And
Yeah.
so we have been conditioned to unconsciously give our power away to these systems. And that's what's putting us in this degenerative state where we're having physical health issues, we're having mental health issues, we're having spiritual health issues, um, because we're not investing our life force in things that are bringing us life. We're investing our life force in things that are literally degenerating life, destroying life on earth, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
because we are not separate from the land, from the environment, when we're investing, our energy in these things that are not life affirming, that's not
Mhm.
affirming life within us.
Right.
And so
It's all a
I
mirror.
personally find the human design body graph is this incredible tool for beginning the process of understanding all of the ways that we have unconsciously invested our
Mhm.
energy in things that are killing
Mhm.
us,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then begin that process of divesting our energy from the things that are not supporting our life force, that are not in alignment with
Mm.
the world that we desire to live in and co-create. And to me, that's
Yeah.
the promise, of the human design body graph, is giving us a tool to begin that process of returning our power to us.
Yeah. I love that you tie this back to human design specifically, because that's also been such a huge part of our journey and something that we're showing up inside of right now at this point in time, coming into communion with Terra Nova more fully, um, accepting one, like so much of the story that we're relaying is all initiated around the body graph, is all initiated around human design. Meeting our fractal through understanding human design and connecting in these online spaces as well. And I personally have gone through such a journey with this where it's like, like, having kind of this back and forth, like, no, I love it. No, I hate it. No, I love it. Do I want to talk about it? And I have a deep, deep understanding and of the system in my own way. And so even just like within my own research, my own knowledge base with human design, I've divested from so many of the teachings that aren't regenerative for me. So I love
Mhm.
that you connected that link, because this is so much, the body graph and human design is a very specific language and tool of archetypes, of archetypes, of unseen realms, of ways of myths and storytelling of the life that we're living in a way that isn't constructed for us in kind of this colonized world that we're experiencing. And so it is such a beautiful promise. It is such a beautiful initiation to come into contact with human design. And it's so much deeper than like, oh, like I'm a 6/3 reflector and I'm going to like talk about these like little things online. It is so much more deep than that. And I think we both had to have our own journey to come back around and say, oh no, this is like a very deeply mystical self-initiatory tool that we can use. And for me specifically, that's where I'm coming from, using this language. That's what you'll be getting from me on the Terra Nova podcast feed, is some human design language from my own perspective. And I won't apologize for it anymore. Like, yeah. But yeah, anyway. But I love that you like tied it back to the energetics. This is a language of energetics.
I'm so happy that you brought up the word archetype, because I think that also is something that is at the center of Terra Nova and why we like to use these systems. I mean, human design kind of being the main system that we have come to understand ourselves and how we're here to relate with one another. But we're also really big fans of integrating the gene keys and astrology. And I know you've gotten really into Bill Plotkin's work, David Abrams' work.
The I Ching.
A lot of these, the I Ching.
I love the I Ching.
Some multidimensional extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yes. I cannot wait to fold in the aliens.
Yeah.
It's going to be the funnest journey of all.
Yes. Just to clarify, aliens are real, and if nobody has told you by now, then it's time for you to know, because they might actually show up here soon.
And like, open a book. Just open Instagram. No, I'm joking.
Honestly, yeah, that's another episode. I won't get into it.
Yeah, exactly.
But back to archetype. This is like probably the main reason that we find these tools so incredibly empowering, is that human design and the gene keys and astrology, they help us understand the archetype that we came here to live out. They help us understand the myth that we came here to live. Every single person's life is meant to be lived as this epic myth. And that is the way that we are approaching these systems, is just like taking what is supportive and helping us remember the epic life that we came here to live, the epic human that we came here to be, all of these superpowers that we are latent within our being. They're just waiting for us to remember that we have these powers. And so, yes, we will be using these tools as a way to explore our archetypes, explore the archetype of who you are.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm happy that you, just kind of closed the circle too on human design, because that's another reason. It's like a tension point that I've had with this podcast the whole time. Is it a human design podcast? Is it not? And I don't think it is a quote unquote human design podcast, but we will be speaking about human design in this space. And we're, and I think something that Kodie's really been pioneering is opening up the human design system and looking at it from a more holistic perspective. And when we do that, we're able to integrate all of these different teachings and wisdom traditions and like indigenous wisdom and all of this stuff to help us support the way that we relate to and understand our, who we are through the lens of human design, through the lens of the body graph. So, yes, we will be using human design language here, and we will be orienting to the system in a new way, in a more expanded way. And then we'll be weaving in all of the things that like we just are interested in, right? Like
Yeah.
we're going to be pulling in like, oh, I'm reading this book right now. I'm reading this incredible book on Native American prophecies right now. I want to do a whole episode on that. I'm really feeling called
Yes.
to
Oh my
dive
God, I
deep
can't wait.
into the human design 2027 prophecy with Richard Rudd's The Great Change prophecy, and then all of these indigenous prophecies. So we're going to be getting into prophecy and what it means to be living in this prophetic time and exploring perspectives on what's coming, on what's on the horizon to help people prepare to not only survive but thrive in this coming age. So
Yes. Yes. So I feel like to kind of round it all out a little bit, as far as the Terra Nova podcast and this channel goes, I think you can expect to see a big mixture of stuff. We're hoping to bring some other brands, some other voices into the fold in their own podcast that will be separate from this feed. However, this channel will serve, correct me if I'm wrong here, Sarah, but it'll kind of serve as also kind of like an update. Here's what we have going. Here's the projects, the creative, the creations that we've been working with. And here's where you can connect with these, as well as I would love to host my episodes that I've been working on through the To Be Known podcast that can be now found here. And I'm super excited to kind of synthesize and bring everything into one area to actually just come into community. It feels so much more supportive and exciting. I'm ready for this ride.
yeah, I think our listeners, our community members can expect to hear from a variety of voices and leaders in this space. And so under the umbrella of Terra Nova, of this media network, we're going to be weaving in different community members, different community leaders who've been a part of breathing life into Terra Nova, who've been a part of co-creating the space. And it's going to evolve as we evolve. And so I am envisioning having like little, maybe we end up having like a 6-episode series on a specific topic,
Yeah.
like different shows, different segments within this larger umbrella. I will be holding down the like Terra Nova podcast space. But I might not be on every podcast, right? Kodie's going to have her podcast and, bringing in her guests, and, vice versa. So you will hear from, a variety of voices. And as more leaders come into the fold, we will introduce you to them and kind of share a little bit of the story of how they came to become a community member, a Terra Nova community member. And I completely agree that this space will what was I going to say?
Like mutate?
Yeah, mutate. It's totally gone.
It's gone. there's no getting it.
It's just gone.
But yeah, it'll be
what I guess what I wanted to just like drive home is like this podcast is just one part of Terra Nova, right? Terra Nova is this global web of community leaders around the world that we're beginning to weave. And so this is what I was going to say.
Here it is.
Yeah, we will we will be sharing the different courses and projects and gatherings that we're hosting here to just kind of like this will be the space where we will inform the community of what's happening within the community, and also prospective community members maybe are just tuning in and starting to get to know us, and you're curious about joining the Terra Nova community. This will be a great way for you to just get a taste of what's happening within the vessel, within the community. And in addition, invite you to subscribe to our Substack. And so we'll be sharing updates through the Substack. We'll be sharing updates here. Those are kind of the best ways to stay in touch with what's happening, with what magic is brewing in the cauldron.
Got some potions stirring right now. Do you wanna talk about those magical
Yeah,
offerings? Do you wanna talk about Path to Power a little bit? And then I will.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're recording this December 10th. And beginning January 25th, we will be opening a container called Path to Power, which is a leadership development program container space for the leaders of the new earth to come and really learn how to channel their medicine, to step into their power. So, what we were speaking about earlier, beginning the process of taking our power back, divesting our power from all of the ways that we've unconsciously invested in it and things that are not supporting our life force or not supporting life on earth, and beginning to tune into the body and the ways that our life force energy wants to express, the ways that our power wants to express through our body. And so within this container, we will have different community leaders come and share their experience walking their path to power. And so the kind of like focal point for the container is looking at the body graph as this tool to reclaim our power, ignite our purpose, and understand our sacred role within community. And so we'll
Mhm.
have different community leaders come and share their experience with human design, with all of the other modalities and tools that they have used to reclaim their power and really understand this archetype that they came here to live out.
Mhm.
Um, we'll have also a space for the community to come together and be witnessed in that process. And so frequently these days, as we move through these big life initiations, we're doing it alone. We're off alone in our lives and we don't have the community support as we move through these big life thresholds. And
Mhm.
so part of the vision for Path to Power is to create a space for us to really witness, for us to witness one another as we remember who we are and remember why we're here. And Kodie and I have had this experience so many times where it's like, just through being witnessed by each other, there is another layer of our power and another layer of remembrance that comes online through simply being witnessed by somebody who
Mhm.
sees and accepts you as you are.
Mhm.
And so the witnessing feels absolutely critical. And then we will also have once a month a vibrational healing arts session as well. So we'll have ceremonial tea, we'll have a sound bath, meditation, all that good stuff. And the vision for this space is everybody who walks through Path to Power, at the end of the container, it's a 5-month container, you're invited to join Terra Nova's Leadership Council. And so this
Mm.
will be the first iteration of the Leadership Council. It's something that Kodie and I have been speaking about for a really long time. And we're really excited to finally be at the time where we're beginning to bring that into form. And
Mhm.
so it's not just a 5-month program where then it's like, okay, see ya. Maybe you made a couple friends. It's like at the end of the program, you're invited to take your role within the Terra Nova community. You're
Oh,
invited to step into your leadership within the Terra Nova community and let us know what that looks like.
yeah. Yep.
So we're really excited about that. It begins January 25th. You can find more information on my Instagram and also on the Terra Nova website under the Hearth. You can find all of our events and courses that are going on. But about
Yay. Well, I do have a lecture series coming soon called Heavenly Bodies. Um, the schedule is still in the works. I still have some work to be doing on it, but that is forthcoming. As far as already scheduled things, I will be hosting at the end of the month a workshop called the Holy Trinity, which is it's an experiment with our awareness centers. And really what that is going to serve to do is really lay the foundation for entering into heavenly bodies, which is kind of a more expansive view of the human design system. Heavenly bodies really seeks to integrate a more mystical, spiritual aspect to human design system and its language as we know it, and expand kind of some of these um, cages and boxes that we put ourselves in with this language and break out of those to see ourselves just as we are. So even if that means that we still identify with this label of reflector or projector, we are less attached to it being our entire identity and more open and curious to finding out what um, the frequency and like the somatic feeling of what we are. Like it's a lot about anchoring and knowing and remembering this very specific differentiated being that we came to be in a new way, not in just the mind, not just mentally, but it really is about learning the language of your own energetics. And so more details will be forthcoming about heavenly bodies, but the Holy Trinity will be a really great intro. It'll be really fun, just kind of like lighthearted and playing around with some of the ideals in there or some of the new topics and ways of looking at the system from a more holistic perspective. So that's,
I'm super
yeah,
excited.
the Holy Trinity is going to be fun.
Right.
I think we did it. That was it. Yeah, that was great. That was we're so excited to be here and to be sharing our voices and to be sharing our medicine. And I feel like something that I would love to do in the future in the next few episodes is really like language is such a huge piece of all of this. And I think like coming into contact with words like regenerative and leadership and some of the words that we use and the language that we use in this podcast hold a very specific frequency.
Mhm.
And so I would love to like connect the bridge here soon with some of that stuff that might feel a little less accessible if you're coming to us in a very like, you're driving to work and you're about to go sit at a desk from 9 to 5. Okay, how do I relate with something of this nature and kind of
Maybe
bring
we could
it
do like
in
a
a
glossary episode.
yeah, that would be fun and kind of tack it down to a really like relatable because these are all relatable terms, right? They're words that we've just started using because we understand what it means in our day to day, and everybody has that opportunity. It's a new way of relating to language. So anyway,
I
wanted to
love
say
that.
that before we get off. So um, stay tuned. Yeah.
Stay tuned. If you're not already following us on Instagram, follow us at terranova.community. You can check out our website. It's super beautiful. Luna helped design it all. And we're going to be posting more updates there, specifically under the Hearth tab, which is where like all of the gatherings and happenings that are happening within Terra Nova, you can go ahead and find there. If you happen to be in Santa Fe, Luna and I are going to be hosting meditation, tea, and bagels every other Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
And then we're hoping to restart our bi-weekly meditation and tea ceremony online as well. So lots of exciting stuff coming up.
Yes.
And thank you so much for being here, for listening. We
Thank
love
you.
you.
We do. We do. We
You're
love
doing
you
great.
so much. You're doing a great job at this humaning thing.
We love you. You're great. You're not alone. Okay. Cheers to that.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Terra Nova. Here at Terra Nova, we are in the business of community, and so we'd absolutely love to hear from you. You're invited to connect with us on Instagram at terranova.community. Please like and subscribe on YouTube so our voices can reach more hearts. To hear from other voices in the Terra Nova community, subscribe to our Substack where we share writings from community members as well as updates on our latest events, projects, and classes. This project is filmed and produced by Terra Nova Media. A special thank you to Iman Alchemy for creating this special piece of music for this podcast. Sending you love wherever you are. We'll see you next time inside Terra Nova.